Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll be discussing the way that governments have mismanaged economies throughout the world, with a specific focus on South Africa and Lebanon. Joining me today is Charlie Smith, and I'm John Kenny. This evening we're going to
Oh my God.
start off by talking about a very disruptive Middle Eastern economy. Charlie, why don't you run us through the economy of Lebanon?
Yes, thank you, John. The Lebanese economy has wrestled with many issues throughout the last century, and as a result, has faced multiple consequences. Lebanon is one of the most corrupt nations, as you said, with a CPI of 25 out of 100, having dropped another 5 points in the last 9 years. Since the civil war, politicians have exploited their power, trying to gain self-wealth or leverage within the nation and within wider businesses, which has led to a slow economic recovery. The Lebanon corruption laws implemented in 2019 have tried to address the issue. However, the 15-year civil war has also had a major impact on the functionality of the economy. The nation plummeted as infrastructure was destroyed. This led to the government financing these buildings through internal and external borrowing, which led to these debts becoming increasingly great. This internal borrowing was highlighted with the emergence of both budget deficits and exposed a high rate of debt within the nation. While monetary policies set in Lebanon are in an attempt to help the economy, they have been mostly unsuccessful. The BDL has set a cash rate of 10% since 2010. This highlights the neglect that the Lebanese authorities have shown in relation to the cash rate. Furthermore, the Lebanese pound has also been greatly reduced in value in the past 2 decades due to hyperinflation, meaning that the exchange rate is very poor. While it may encourage foreign investment, it displaces the nation's ability to import, as their dollar's worth decreases exponentially. Moving on to the fiscal policies.
The fiscal policies that were introduced by the Lebanese government unfairly advantaged the wealthy portion of the population, which placed the country in further disproportion between wealthy and poor.
After the Civil War, the government regained the ability to collect taxes and began to increase the standard of living again through several key spending areas. There has also been a 5% increase from 20% to 25% in the top income tax bracket. This is looking to make the nation more equitable as they move away from the corruption phases within the nation and begin to focus on the reconstruction and stabilization of the Lebanese economy.
How very interesting, Charlie. Now, to compare that to South Africa, the South African economy has had a history of instability and inequality. When you look at such data points as the GDP per capita and the mean wealth per adult, the economy of South Africa doesn't look too bad to the average individual. However, this comes from averaging out between a very high, very small minority at the top and a very large but very poor majority down the bottom. The rise in crime and violence towards the wealthier class has led to a phenomenon called capital flight. Capital flight occurs when assets or money rapidly flow out of the country due to an event or economic consequence. The South African economy has suffered as a result of this, as the fiscal policy stimulated growth in a wealthy minority who subsequently began leaving the country and taking the stimulus with them. While these policies have not been as successful as governments might have hoped, the lack of suitable alternatives has left the South Africans in an economic stagnation due to the lack of private capital investment.
Okay, John, let's build on this economy. What about the fiscal and monetary policies that the South African economy has implemented in response?
Well, Charlie, this is where things get interesting. The COVID-19 economic crisis resulted in South Africa suffering its longest recession in 28 years. In response to the crisis, the South African Reserve Bank, the SARB or SARB, reduced the cash rate from 7% to 3.5%. That is slashing it in half. Unlike Lebanon, the South African Central Bank takes a very hands-on approach to managing the cash rate. However, yet again, this policy mainly affected the wealthy minority of the country, while the impoverished majority felt no benefit from the reduced cash rate. Monetary policy targets the drivers of aggregate demand, consumers and firms. The SARB's decision to reduce the cash rate in a time of low confidence and high uncertainty incentivized consumers and firms to increase consumption and investment. Lower cash rates decrease the interest that consumers have to pay on loans, therefore increasing the marginal propensity to consume. Lower cash rates also decrease the interest that firms have to pay, making it cheaper to invest and increasing the marginal propensity to invest. When the cash rate is reduced, that directly stimulates growth in the economy through consumers and firms. However, yet again, this policy mainly affected the wealthy minority of the country, while the impoverished majority felt no benefit from the reduced interest rates, as most of them have no home loans left to pay. The South African government also released a fiscal stimulus of $26 billion, mainly through additional health support, basic services, and the unemployment insurance fund. While this stimulus did reduce the pressures of the recession, it is estimated that it will take until 2025 for the South African economy to reach pre-COVID levels. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on yet another installment of Capitalism with the Captain.
That's right, John. There's nothing better than having a good old chat about economics.
Especially at 1 a.m. the morning that the assessment is due.
Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.